Will you join me in prayer? We give thanks to you, loving God, for your presence with us right here and right now. I claim your presence in this presentation, that the truth comes forward and that I am able to articulate clearly through you. I thank you for all the gifts that you've given me and this ministry. Amen. So today we're going to talk about creating an exit strategy. We've been studying Hell in the Hallway, Light at the Door, a book by Ellen Davenport. And it's been a very wonderful book study for some of us because we've had some insights on why perhaps we've been in a hallway or whether we're in a hallway or not. And even more than that, where are we going to go? And creating an exit strategy is just that. How do we get out of this darn hallway? But first, a little quiz. How enlightened are you? If you can live without caffeine, if you can be cheerful, ignoring aches and pains, if you can resist complaining, if you can understand when your loved ones are too busy to give you any time, if you take criticism and blame without resentment, if you ignore a friend's limited education and never correct him or her, if you can resist treating a rich friend, better than a poor friend, if you can face the world without lies and deceit, if you can conquer tension without medical help, or relax without liquor, or if you can sleep without the aid of drugs, or if you can honestly say that deep in your heart you have no prejudice against creed, color, religion, gender preference, or politics, then you've almost reached the same level of spiritual development as your dog. And those of us who have had dogs absolutely understand that. And why that touched me so today was sometimes on our journey out of the hallway, we need a companion. We need a companion that is sure-footed and doesn't even care that they're in the hallway. They just want to be with you. And that's what the dogs do. So I'm going to go back and talk about why we might want to stay in our hallways. Well, the hallways can sometimes be comfortable and familiar and predictable. In fact, Ellen Davenport says sometimes we install AC and carpet. And I would go on to say that some of us actually have a recliner and cable TV in there as well. Sometimes in our hallway we get a lot of sympathy. You know, it's a source of attention. And without it, we wouldn't get the sympathy or the attention. Some of us might feel guilty if we leave our hallway because of what happened. In fact, if someone has left us, if someone has made their transition, sometimes moving out of the hallway of grief am I betraying them? Am I betraying the memory of this wonderful person by moving out of the grief, the disability, the disabling grief? We're always going to experience grief, but that disabling grief. And some of us stay in the hallway because we don't know what we want. And you know, that is part of the beauty of living in this age, is that we have so many darn options, don't we? You know, the world is full of possibilities, and sometimes just narrowing it down to a couple things is really difficult to do. I know I used to get even confused when I would go in McDonald's and give my order, and they would say, "Would you like fries with that?" And I would stare at them for a moment going, no, because it was another option yet to consider. And then, who would I be without my story? You know, there's identity issues that come about. And what would I talk about if I didn't have my story? And this past week I shared with our book study how, and I've shared before about when my first partner made his transition, I was with him for 8 years. And this was the love of my life. And when he died, I was completely devastated. And my identity, I didn't know who I was. And, because I identified so much with that relationship. So then I went into this identity of being the widow, so to speak. And it took me 8 years to get out of that identity, because that was my story. And I got attention from it and juice from it and power in it. And it was false power. When I look back, I think he would probably be going, oh, geez, didn't you learn anything? Go on in life. Enjoy life. Meet more people. Expand your horizons. But then we start having, if we desire, if we start having a shift in consciousness, and we start to take doors on our hallway, because we know that we're going to be all right no matter what happens, deep down. We've had enough experiences that say, I've been through, maybe not this one before, but I've been through similar things or even worse things. I got through that. I can get through this. And sometimes we start taking responsibility for our life from that point forward, because up until that time, we were surrendering our responsibility. We were playing, I won't say playing, we were being a victim on some level. And we started setting an intention for the person that we wish to be. Excuse me. And then we take a step forward, we begin moving our feet, beginning to act. I don't know if any of you are on Facebook, but this was a post that's been circulating in my community of friends the past couple weeks, and it's just basically reminding us to take that first step, to do that first push-up, drink that first glass of water, read that first page, write that first paragraph. Just do it today. And then tomorrow, repeat that. Do it again. I had a quilting teacher, Auntie Debbie. She was a Hawaiian Chinese woman. And, oh my goodness, she was fierce. And she would teach each person Hawaiian quilting, and individually. She never taught as a group. Each person she would sit and teach them how to do the stitches. And she would say, you pick this up every day and you do 1 inch a day. Now she knew that once we got it in our hands, we'd probably do more than 1 inch a day, but she also knew that it took every day of doing 1 or 2 inches. Eventually you complete the project. And Auntie Debbie had a legacy of quilts, of stories. And so we begin to have movements in consciousness. And we go from a negative consciousness, which is a mind filled with ungodlike thoughts, such as fear and hate and greed and lust and resentments, discouragement, sickness, and poverty. This happens sometimes when we get in the hallway because it's really confusing. And sometimes we're like really angry that we're there, or just really confused why we're there, or just really sad that we're there. And so these thoughts start to multiply in us, that negative consciousness. And then as we start going through the hallway and we start shaking things loose and we start maybe trusting a little bit, we go into positive consciousness. And that's a mind filled with God's thoughts, such as strength and generosity, power, purity, and optimism. It is a shift in consciousness. And this shift in consciousness is that we acknowledge finally that we're in a hallway. We're kind of out of the state of shock. We're in a hallway. The doors have closed. We can't go back. And we start to let go of the anxiety and the frustration and the panic and the judgment for being in the hallway or whatever else about the hallway. And we start to be brave and we start to trust. We start developing faith again. We start believing in the faith that was probably always there, but we lost sight of it for a moment. And we cultivate patience. We start to live with gratitude, even gratitude that we're in the hallway and we open up and allow vulnerability. And that's a real tough one, because when we've been hurt, I don't know about you, I say, I don't want to be twice bitten. But when we get to the hallway and the next opportunity comes, we're just that much smarter, aren't we, generally? We may get bitten again, but not in the same way. And if we do, we really needed to learn a lesson. We really needed that. And remember that we've come through hallways before. This isn't our first hallway. Judy Goodday always says to me, this isn't my first rodeo. Well, this isn't our first hallway. We've been through them before. And then we also remember that this is happening for us. Not to us, but for us. This hallway is presenting itself for a new road, a new avenue. So things to remember as we're coming out. It's possible to become comfortable in the hallway or feel guilty for leaving, but be willing to rewrite your story. You're getting ready to start a new chapter. You don't even know how it's going to unfold, but you're getting ready to start a new chapter. And before you change or break through, your consciousness shifts first. So you may feel it before you see it. How many of us have gone through like a deep set of grief or just something that was really traumatic, and then you just found yourself out of the blue feeling light for just a moment, just a brief moment? It was like you found yourself laughing, and you went, and to me, I love those moments because I've had some really dark hallways, and when they happen, it's like such grace that just for one moment I felt like a regular person. I didn't feel like a trauma survivor in a hallway. I felt like a regular person. And it's such a wonderful, wonderful experience. So sometimes in our consciousness, we're going to feel it before we see it. And Ellen Davenport says, we are here to experience life, not transcend it. Now that one, that's why I got it in bold, because that one kind of knocked me over. I thought the whole purpose was here on earth was to live more like Jesus, and it is. It is. It is to embody the Christ Spirit inside of me, the Christ consciousness in each one of us, to embody that. But we are here to experience the full gamut of life. We probably will not be ascended masters. Probably not be. Although, and I'll just put this caveat in there, in this lifetime. We're on our way. We are the bodhisattvas of the world. If you know anything about Buddhism, the bodhisattvas are the people, the souls that come incarnate over and over again to help all the other souls catch up, and so that we can all evolve together. You're in a room of bodhisattvas, blessed bodhisattvas. You can make your own heaven and hell here on earth by what you think, say, or do. And she reminds us, appreciate everything around you. Appreciate being alive. And on a day like this, when you go out and you experience such glorious weather, and you're in a room with such loving souls, you can't experience anything else but appreciation. Deep, wonderful appreciation. So the question is, we're getting ready to leave the hallway, and what do you want? Well, here's the news. You get to choose. You get to choose. And Ellen Davenport brings up something about attraction. So she's repeating something from Napoleon Hill when he wrote Think and Grow Rich. He talks about synthetic imagination and creative imagination. And synthetic imagination is when we rearrange what is already familiar. You take what you know and you tweak it and you rearrange it and you create a new picture. It makes the life you have a little better. And sometimes I call that not reinventing the wheel. There's something already out there. I'm going to follow that program, tweak it make it my own, go forward. And that's really fine because I've done that a lot in life and it has served me well. However, the flip side is creative imagination. And that's when it's open at the top for new input. You are open and receptive to brand new ideas, things that are completely out of the box, things you hadn't thought of before. It leaves room for divine inspiration and the unknown. It's the future you can never imagine with results beyond your wildest dreams. I love that kind of imagination. And I love when the opportunities come from that creative imagination. And we're going to talk in a little bit about someone who used that imagination. Because imagination goes, to me, hand in hand with desire. Desire is God speaking directly to you. If you want to know where God is leading your life, study your deepest longings. And each and every one of us has had longings that went beyond what was around us, went beyond what other people were thinking. Because I've heard your stories, and many of you have told me that you felt like you were the only person who thought the way you thought. And you are. You are the only person who thinks the way you think. And it's wonderful. But when you get into a group of like souls and like minds who are also thinking thoughts that are coming out of the top of their head, and they're open and receptive to God's wonderful greatness, boy, you got, I don't want to say magic, but it's pretty close. Emily Cady says, desire in the heart is always God tapping at the door of your consciousness. So we are created to seek our desires, our highest good. We are created to do that. So how do we put that desire into action? Well, Ellen Davenport says, create the conditions. We enhance our consciousness with spiritual disciplines. And you know the list. I use them all the time for you. Prayer, meditation, affirmations, service, generosity. Actually, when I say to you, I actually mean to me, because I have to remind myself of this every day. It's so easy not to do my spiritual disciplines. It's so easy not to practice them. It's so easy just to go about my life. I have to stop and focus and remember, just like my medicine. I got to take my medicine. I got to stop and I got to eat. I got to stop and I got to do my exercise. I got to stop and just be. Just be. So attuning. We go for the feeling. That's how we put desire into action. We go for the know how you want to feel. How do you want to feel? Do you want to feel attractive? Dress up. Do something about your appearance that makes you feel more attractive. Do you want to feel more fit? Move more. Have that, know that you're putting action behind this feeling. Some people tell me they want to feel more spiritual, and you can't feel any more spiritual. You're all as spiritual as you're going to get, but you may want to be more open to your spiritual experience. If you want to feel more open to your spiritual experience, be open to enhancing your spiritual practices. She says, pay attention to the messages, the synchronicity that's going on in your life, the dreams that are coming. What are the messages, the outside messages? You know, if someone says to you something about, when we had planned to move here, the message was San Diego. And suddenly San Diego appeared everywhere for us. People were just talking about San Diego out of the blue. Oh, I went to San Diego for that. Whatever it was just popping up out of the blue. The synchronicity was so clear that San Diego was the place to move to. And I know you've all had that experience where something pops in your head and then it's confirmed over and over again by the universe, by these synchronistic messages. And Ellen says, write a vision and work it. Reverend Ann does, is it treasure mapping?
Yes.
Reverend Ann does treasure mapping. She has visuals with words on it, and she has it in front of her, and she carries it from room to room. And not only does she visualize it, she's affirming it mentally as well. She works her treasure maps, and they work for her. We're going to have her talk about that sometime, and we're all going to be present for that, aren't we? So I want to talk about Joseph, because I see Joseph, the son of Jacob, as one of those people who was put into a hallway that he didn't know what was coming. He absolutely didn't. And metaphysically, Joseph means whom Jehovah will add to. Jehovah shall increase. So it really means from perfection unto perfection. Can you imagine if your name meant that? Do we have any Josephs here? We're going to start naming Josephs, aren't we? Joseph also stands for the faculty of imagination. Right use of imagination is the main basis for what we designate as right thinking or as positive thinking. Joseph, in the early part of his life, symbolized undisciplined and uncontrolled imagination. But later in life, he learns through hard experiences. He develops depth, insight, and self-control. His metaphysical meaning changes from mere imagining and becomes positive, constructive thinking. Now, Joseph was Jacob's favorite son. And his brothers were very jealous of him. And Joseph had this great gift of imagination. So you can imagine a parent, when your child has a great gift of imagination, how much that might amuse you, how much you would enjoy their imagination. But you also know as a parent that the imagination can have a shadow side to it as well, couldn't it? There could be imaginary goblins or imaginary fears or whatever is out there. Well, Joseph's father, Jacob, gave him a beautiful multicolored coat. Now, we all know this story, or most of us do. Shouldn't say we all. Gave him this coat. And Joseph is showing off in front of his brothers about his coat. And in this process, Joseph has shared 2 dreams with his brother. Now, it's wonderful that he has dreams, and he has the ability to interpret them. But he didn't have the wisdom to keep that information to himself. So basically what he told his brothers was, I had these dreams, and in these dreams, I was superior to you, and you all bowed down to me. Yeah. So they decided to kill him. But instead of killing him, they realized, maybe he's worth some money. They sold him into slavery. And Joseph found himself in Egypt, many, many, many miles away from his homeland. And as in slavery, he was bought by a man who worked for Pharaoh. I think he was a captain. And I'm thinking, is this the right one? Yes, he worked for a captain, and the captain's wife lusted after him. The captain gave Joseph a great amount of responsibility because, he saw God's light in Joseph. And he gave Joseph a great amount of responsibility, but the captain's wife lusted after him and tried to seduce him, and Joseph did not fall for it. He did not. But she tricked him, got a hold of his garment, and made it look like he had molested her or attempted to molest her. Now, doesn't this sound like, a miniseries already? When his master heard the words from his wife and spoke to him, she said to her husband, "This is the way your servant treated me." The master became enraged, and Joseph's master took him, put him in prison, the place where the king's prisoners were confined. But the Lord was with Joseph and showed him steadfast love. He gave him favor in sight of the chief jailer. And the chief jailer committed Joseph's care of all the prisoners who were in the prison. And whatever was done there, he was the one who did it. And the chief jailer paid no heed to Joseph. He trusted Joseph that much. Imagine trusting your prisoner to take care of the prisoners. So much. Because he knew the Lord was with him, and whatever he did, the Lord made it prosper. So, to me, this is a double hallway. First hallway is being put in being sold as a slave, and the second hallway is now as he's in jail. And in both situations, God is giving him new directions, new opportunities, new doors to open. And then the Pharaoh was having these dreams, and one of his fellow prisoners realized that Joseph interpreted dreams and told Pharaoh that there was this man who interpreted dreams. And Joseph interpreted the dreams. And we know that he interpreted a dream. One of the dreams was about the 7 years of fullness, of lushness, of crops, wonderful abundance, and 7 years of lean. And Joseph advised him, you must store the 7 years of abundance, and then you will have it for the 7 years of lean. And Pharaoh said to the servants, can we find anyone else who can do this job of overseeing this? And he said to Joseph, since God has shown you all this, there is no one discerning and wise as you. You shall be over my house and all my people, and shall order themselves as you command. Only with regard to the throne will I be greater than you. Now imagine, one day you're a prisoner, and the next day you're the king's right-hand dude. Imagine that. That is just so absolutely wild. And I think that really goes hand in hand with that creative energy, that creative imagination. Joseph wasn't just thinking in a synthetic way, I'll just do what I've always done. He thought outside the box, and this is how he's rewarded by it. And I'm going to go on, but you get this picture that he's been greatly rewarded. Well, the famine comes, and the people outside of Egypt are really hungry, including his brothers and their families. And so Joseph's father, Jacob, sends the brothers into Egypt to find food because they heard there's food there. And Joseph sees them, and of course, they don't recognize him. They don't. So he gives them some food, sends them back because he wants the younger brother there. They bring back the younger brother, sends him back, and at this point, he discloses who he is. It says Joseph could not control himself before all those who stood by him, and he cried out, "Send everyone away from me." So no one stayed with him when Joseph made himself known to his brothers. And he wept so loudly that the Egyptians heard it, and the household of Pharaoh heard it. "I am Joseph. Is my father still alive?" But his brothers couldn't answer him because they were so dismayed by his presence. So they go back and get the father. And the family has this reunion in Egypt. They've all come through a long hallway in their own way. Joseph through many, and they in their own ways coming through a hallway. And Joseph says to them at the end, "I am your brother Joseph, whom you sold into Egypt. And now do not be distressed or angry with yourselves, because you sold me here, for God sent me before you to preserve life." He got it. He got that he had been in that terrible hallway for a purpose. And that purpose was to save his family and to save the tribe of Israel. Think of that. What a profound purpose. Joseph was, I believe, a grandfather of David. Am I correct? I believe. So in that lineage, therefore he is a descendant also, or up the ladder from Jesus. So there's a relationship in all these generations. Joseph, if this story had not unfolded this way, there may have not been any more of the nation of Israel. So we're thinking about coming out of the hallway. We're taking our, we're making our plans, we're taking our steps. And what Ellen Davenport says to us, and nothing is in your experience unless it is a match to your consciousness. So as we raise our consciousness, as we grow in consciousness, so shall we grow in our experiences. And that is why the hallways are there for us, to grow in experience, to grow in consciousness. Will you join me as we close in prayer? We thank you, our loving God, for all that you have given us, every experience, every person, every relationship, every experience of love and challenge, that you are there to help us see light at the door and to see the light inside of us and to grow from every experience and to create heaven here on earth. And for that, we are so grateful. We claim this in your name and nature. Amen.
Thank you for joining us, and let's stay connected and grow in spirit. We are on Facebook. Search for Unity Church of El Cajon and follow us and like our posts. You can reach us on YouTube at Unity Church of El Cajon. Please subscribe to our channel, watch our videos, and leave comments which can help us improve. We are on the web at unityofelcajon.org. Email or call our church office to receive our weekly newsletters, which lists all of our activities and opportunities to learn and grow together.